About to go to Anchor app. Okay, podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to SportsSkope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this Tuesday, the 24th, 22 edition of SportsSkope, the most influential show in the country. Got a lot I want to talk about tonight. Folks, I understand what's happened. A lot of people talking about the tragedy in Texas. Let me just say this, and you know, this is my thoughts and prayers, and I'm even up for anything being done with that situation. If you ever want to win people over who don't agree with you, and you're a person that cares about human suffering of all forms or death or anything, just be consistent. You know, don't point fingers. Just be consistent and solve the problem. I think that is more than fair thing to do in trying to solve any kind of problems for that matter. So, anyways, put my banner up here. Kind of got a little bit behind today. Really bad weather situation here in the Tennessee area, Middle Tennessee. A lot of thunderstorms. Got behind a lot of traffic. But we're going to have a big show tonight, okay? So I hear a lot of teams, they want to, in the NBA, we've been seeing this for years, folks, that you see this, you see teams like Houston want to emulate the three ball because they emulate the three ball from the Warriors because they shoot it so well. The Houston Rockets, they do it. You watch this Dallas team, they emulate the three ball. LeBron shoots more threes. They started emulating the three ball. And, you know, my thing is just don't emulate the Warriors at just that. Emulate the entire culture of the Golden State Warriors. This is some observations I made just from Sunday night, but really this team going back, and I know they're looks like they were down 6 or 7 tonight. They're going for the sweep. I don't know. I didn't even bet tonight's game. But it looks like nobody in NBA history's ever came back from 0-3 deficit in a series. Now, Boston did it in baseball. Came back 0-3 in 2004 against the New York Yankees. I don't expect them to do that. But this is what has caught my eye from this particular team that nobody else is talking about, okay? They're underneath defense and rebounding. Guys like Jordan Poole, Kevon Looney. And I watch a lot of that game, but you saw it in the Memphis series. You're seeing it in this series, is that it's very difficult to get a high percentage shot in the paint. And what really reminded me of this team is their interior defense. It reminds me of the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, something nobody talks about. Everybody talks about, well, they had the inside-out game with Shaq, Kobe. You had to double Shaq because he's so dominant down low. But, you know, Kobe, such a dynamic shooter, fierce work ethic, never winded, always in great shape, strong competitor. But that interior defense from that team reminds me of this team. Now, mind you, Phil Jackson coached that team. Phil Jackson coached Steve Kerr, the head coach of Golden State, when he played for the Chicago Bulls. And their 3 and 4 shots missed by Luka Doncic, Finley Smith, you name it. And they're blocking them, they're getting the ball back, and they're getting in transition. That Shaq and Kobe team, very much similar dynamic interior defense that I've seen, and that has been taught from Kerr to this basketball team. You know, they just could never get a clean shot. That's what another thing the Warriors really don't get enough credit for, and the ability. But just like I said, it's just not the 3-point shooting. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, you never hear anybody on the Warriors complain about points, minutes, shots, anything of that nature. You never hear. So get their whole culture. Get their, if you want to emulate the way they draft. A lot of these guys went multiple years of school. Steph Curry graduated. I told you guys he's going to be 34, be 35 next year. This is probably their last run, but they could have another one in them. I don't think it will. But this could be their fourth title, 2 without Kevin Durant, possibly. They're the favorites now to win the whole thing. But, just don't emulate just a 3-ball. A lot of teams do not want to draft college graduates. They want to get the one-and-doners because they're just looking at talent. But look at their main players. Multiple years in school. Kevin Durant or Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. A lot of guys that come into that system. They buy into the defense. They get the extra pass off. And when they're not hitting their 3, they're getting high percentage shots and they're getting stops by your team. And nobody's looking at that because that's not the pretty. Getting the defensive stops, that's like in football, talking about the offensive line, the typical fan, but people like me that really study the game, you start to see the little things that they do that make them a great team. This would be their 4th championship if they win it, obviously. This would be their 5th finals. Now, remember, they lost 1 year to Cleveland. But this is not the most talented team. Yes, you could say Steph, the greatest 3-point shooter of all time, not the best defender in the world, but he has got a high basketball IQ. He never complains. He never wanted to break the bank. And that's another thing. Not everybody's trying to get the max offer there, even though they could elsewhere, especially Draymond a few years ago, and even Klay Thompson, I think. Obviously, Steph Curry. So the coaching, the management, the chain of command, all that stuff that I've been talking about is what they've done and they've mastered. And now look at them. Not the biggest, not the most physically talented team out there, but they still continue to be competitive. The last few years prior to this year, they've had multiple injuries. But if it wouldn't have been for torn ACLs and torn Achilles, we're talking with Klay going out, with Draymond getting hurt, this team could have been in it every single year. It's something to think about. Their team that it's the opposite. It is draft, develop, 2nd-round pick Draymond Green, Wiseman, Looney. These guys were not just draft. They were not lottery players. But it's the culture. It's the respect, and it's I have to give them credit, Pickles. I don't care for Steph Curry or Steve Kerr for some of the stuff he says off the court. But I tell you what, I do like to give them respect. The way they play defense that nobody talks about, their passing ability, their team culture. They're just not the most athletic, but they're one of the smarter teams. And mind you, these guys are all in their core 3 players are in their mid-30s. That is a real high IQ there. So just don't emulate the one thing. It's like getting the really good offense, Pickles, and in the NFL, and teams go out and draft a bunch of receivers, but they don't draft, say the Rams, for example. They don't draft the Orlando Pace, the left tackle. They don't worry about that. Well, look at Kansas City. Let's do a football analogy. Everything looks so great from what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes draw up. But look, they totally rebuilt their offensive line. They got a 1st-round pick traded a 1st-round pick for Orlando Pace, or Orlando Brown, their left tackle that they got from Baltimore. So it's those little things that people don't pay attention to because it's not pretty. It's more than just the 3-ball. And people, executives with a lot more background than I got, doesn't seem to get that. Some do, but not everybody. I think Danny Ainge got it. I think he got it. I think Pat Riley, to a certain extent, I think he's got that. Jerry West, I think he's got that. He understands team game development and everything of that nature. Steve Kerr reacts to Texas shout. That just popped up on my screens. That's just perfect. Just perfect. Transition. Okay. Speaking of Steve Kerr, a guy who's he has an opinion on everything, shootings, a president, and everything, but he never seems to have a thing. And even though his dad was an ambassador to the United States, I give him a compliment. Now I'm going to slap him around. Okay. He had no comment on the abuses in China. And so, Robert, why are you bringing up China? Well, China, of all stories, China has secretly reinstated the NBA to play basketball there, to air state TV games. Okay? So ESPN, yes, I said it, which is owned by ABC, which is owned by Disney, put out a long story. And this was last week after I did the program, that state TV China is going to go back and bring in and air NBA games after a suspension, which I totally forgot about, of 3 years because Daryl Morey put out a tweet, the former general manager of the Houston Rockets, now the general manager of Philadelphia 76ers, free Hong Kong. That turned into an international incident. The NBA could no longer air games on the China state TV. Of course, other reporters that are not in bed with ABC or the reporters or the same belief called out China also during this chaos. This is back in 2019 for their human rights and the Muslims who were, I think it's in Xinjiang is how you say it, that area in China, being held in camps against their will and all that good stuff. So that all came into play. So China basically suspended NBA. Now they're reinstated. And now the ESPN has got this story out, came out last week. It says ESPN examined investments of 40 principal owners, 40. Now you say there's like 30 teams. 40, we're talking minority owners, not full majority owners. 40 owners, including guys like Michael Jordan, Mickey Arison from Miami Heat. They all have invested interest. And the number one guy, who's a Taiwan national, has about 53% interest company in China. But this ESPN says 40 principal owners have found that collectively have $10 billion tied up in China. And, that story really shocked me. And, of course, the Nets owner, he's the co-founder of the Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba. He has embedded the NBA in Chinese relationships. This guy's name is Joe Tai. Like I said, owns this company, Chinese, 53% of it. He's really tied up into this Chinese environment. Now, I did a little research on this, Pickles. Now, the ESPN put out that big story. They talked about it, how much entanglement the NBA has with China after coming back. And here's some of the numbers here. The NBA on NBC, this is a big deal. The NBA on ABC, and Turner Sports, their contracts will be up in 2025, Pickles. This is from CNBC report last year. $75 billion. This is what they were making prior to that, $2.8 to $8 billion per year. 1.5 of that Only 1.5 of that was coming from China. Rest was coming from the States and other markets that televised the NBA. But this next contract coming up in 2025, this next contract is going to be in the range of $75 billion. And the majority of that $75 billion, I would say 65 of that is coming from non-China. You say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why are they so beholden to China? I don't know. I'll say this. This next contract will push teams, according to CNBC, salary caps from 112 per team to 175. And I looked up the merchandise sale for China. And we're talking big numbers here, but it's only $500 million. So at the worst, $10.5 billion, and I'm overestimating, I'm sure it's not that high, that teams can make, the league can make from China. But here's the kicker. China is 7th in most popular sport, basketball loving country in the United States. China is not really that powerful. And maybe, just maybe the reason why this story even got out is somebody wanted it to get out to maybe an owner. I don't know, Pickles, but considering the fact that that's a little bit of conflict of interest, I'm surprised ESPN did it. But somebody probably wanted this story to get out because I'm thinking these billionaires are looking at the situation there. Let's think about this for a second. There's a possibility they can invade Taiwan. The owner of the Nets is a Taiwan national. Okay, that's a possibility. But public relations-wise, China looks bad. Okay, they've been looking bad. Number two, between this administration, probably not this one, but the next one, that coronavirus is going to get this. That coronavirus, the origin of it, it's going to get investigated, and China's not going to look good. That's dangerous. And number three, look at the Brittany Griner situation. Another basketball player stuck in Russia. So sending these players over here, and I would tell, if I'm in players' agent, I'm going to say, you need to get the bleep out of China, man. I don't care how much money. Money means nothing if you're a prisoner over there, okay? But I'm thinking that somebody with, and by the way, the commissioner did not comment on this story. Somebody behind the scenes wanted this story to get out, that 40 principal owners, to send that message to those owners in some way, form, shape, form, or fashion, the ones that's got mostly tied up, to get that money out of there because it's going to hit the fan there with China, and the NBA does not need to be tied up over there. And the fact, Pickles, that it is 7th. The Philippines, it's basketball's bigger in the Philippines than it is in China. India, the Middle East, Argentina is where the player that used to play for the Spurs, Ginobili, Brazil. So the Caribbean areas, so Puerto Rico, basketball. Here's a story here. 15 countries where basketball is most popular worldwide. United States, number 1. Canada's 2. Argentina, Manu Ginobili, 3. Russia's 4. Now Russia will be off. Spain's 5. Australia's 6. That's where Ben Simmons. And then China's 7. And then you've got Brazil, the Philippines, China, they like it more in the Philippines. So that's also an Asian country. Serbia is number 10. Greece, the Greek freak. So Europe is huge. So you're not going to fall apart if you pull out of China. And I think that's what someone's trying to do. And I wouldn't blame. We got to look at the Brittany Griner situation. You got to look at a possible war with Taiwan, the Corona investigation. all that's adding up to that little bit of money, even though I know that these guys are greedy. 10 billion, you've got 65 billion coming everywhere else. If I'm the commissioner, I work in my marketing, move my marketing west and lean into the European markets and make it better here in the United States. I think you'll have a winning product there. I'll tell you one thing, the fans, they don't like players that look like they're not playing well, are not playing with 110% effort. They don't like super teams typically. They don't like to be lectured to about social justice and stuff like that. Selective outrage when teams look the other way, when you have real human rights issues over there in China. Now, I know we've had some isolated incidents, George Floyd, but nothing like China where the government's actually doing that. The government's not actually ordering people to get the crap beat out of them or held against their will. So that is something that Adam Silver, those 30 owners, Mickey Arison with the Carnival Cruise Lines, he's tied up thick. That's the owner of the Miami Heat with China. You got to get out of that. And I think somebody tipped off ESPN with this, which is going to get that next contract and do so. But I get the good news is, like I said, they're a pimp. They're not the whole thing. The game is not going to fall apart without China. It wasn't that big in the 90s. And Jordan and everybody did fine in the 90s. The game's grown. It's more global. But it wasn't going broke in the 90s either, when the international teams weren't that popular as they are today. Of course, a lot of that changed with the 92 Dream Team, Pickles. So I give a compliment, I take a compliment. That's what I do. I call balls and strikes here, you know. So last week, like I said on my little sneak preview channel there, Nick Saban, he was talking to some boosters last week. I want to talk back, say this with a little bit more detail. And he lays into the NIL, everything, and he goes off on Texas A&M. By the way, they've lost another commitment. Looks like Alabama's going to pick him up. There's been talk about that. A little bit of interesting stuff there. And then you got Nick Saban saying that basically their last class was number one. Texas A&M paid every single player. Jimbo Fisher takes crazy shots back at him, basically telling him, don't throw stones when you live in a glass house. He did not elaborate on that. He's basically done with Jimbo Fisher. Like I said on the Jim Jack and Mac Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show, this reminds me of the Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick feud from the early 2000s when Parcells was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and Belichick was with the Patriots. And that Sunday night game, they could not look at each other. And Saban's ticked, man. He's ticked and taking it out on him. He even took a shot at Deion Sanders and said they paid $1 million to the number one overall prospect. What he read, Sanders said, well, they don't even pay me $1 million. I don't know what is true and what's not. I do know that the NIL, the commissioners came out against Nick Saban, and I think that teams will probably, as this has progressed throughout the week, commissioners of each conference, they're probably going to come up with a system to police themselves, and including these ADs from your big Ohio States, your USCs on this type of matter. There's probably going to be some antitrust fights there, but I do think it's going to start there. And mind you, technically, in air quotes, somebody will be sloppy. Most people won't get caught, but somebody will be sloppy. You're not supposed to sell NIL to come to school. You're supposed to get out NIL from your performance on the field, folks. Okay? So that is going to be legislated more. I think that's another message that Saban wanted to get out. I do think that, you know. But we'll see. You know, I do say this. This is going to be a great rival going back to A&M and Alabama, September 10th. By the way, Texas, largest endowment. Texas A&M, huge endowment. The largest. Texas also like second now all of college football. They had the 5th ranked class according to 24/7. Texas A&M number 1 and Alabama number 2. Alabama plays both teams next year. They play September 10th. They play Texas, and then October 8th they are at Texas or at home against Texas A&M. That's going to be a huge. That is going to be a huge game there. I just don't know how. I think, that's what I'm saying, Pickles. I do think that they're going to legislate themselves. They're not going to worry about the Department of Justice there. I think this is going to be with the conferences within themselves, and the presidents of schools are going to get up and try to do something to legislate this thing the best that they can. I do think that it's good for the game as far as the heated rival. This could water down back college football. I could see the fear of this becoming like the NBA, where you got players like Kyrie Irving. And I think the coaches need to set the tone right off the bat and don't give in to that, and tell these players, if you're not playing, you're not going to get this. So you got to do what I ask you to do. But that's going to be a push and pull. The football mentality is more team oriented and not individual oriented. But I do see the argument of the game being watered down because you have a bunch of entitled 18-year-olds. Totally get that. But this is one of those deals where we're just going to have to wait and see. Like I said from the very beginning, this is the oh my God stage. Then we're going to have to get in the stage where maybe they're going to put some kind of guardrails, some checks and balances in there. And there's also going to be a stage where a 19-year-old may have an accident or something. The money went to their head and it run their life. You're going to hear that's going to like the child actor type of story. I think that's going to come out about it. But we'll also hear someone using their NIL money to start a famous business, another Domino's Pizza or something like that, out of college where they got an injury in college or something, a big business. They get in a franchise business or something like that, and they don't make it football, but they took their NIL money and started something to help everybody else out. I think that will be as well. I'm a big picture guy, folks. Big picture guy. Okay. What other directions should I go in? I think I'm going to do a quick, since I didn't know the program, I'm going to do a quick bite here, and I'll be back in 30 seconds, folks, as soon as I can get this Dream Ride commercial in. Stand by.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
Okay, yeah, we got the Dream Ride in there. Almost forgot. So, anyways, okay, going back to the NFL. You know what? Let me go with this Dan Snyder story. Commissioner, there's been talks that the NFL, Washington owner there, the Washington football team, Commanders, whatever you want to call them, they have been withholding money from the NFL from ticket sales and whatnot. The commissioner was asked about it today, Roger Goodell. He says, I'm not aware of that. He's probably told not to be aware of that until we actually do it. There was a report of Pro Football Talk over the weekend that a 24 person vote there, Pickles, that's what it would be able to take to get him to sell the team to push Daniel Snyder out of the NFL. And on that note, I have to change out my podcast. Okay. Now I'm back. So that would be the best news that a Washington fan could get. Okay, check this out. Since he bought this team, Pickles, in 1999, first of all, they were the second most valuable organization in the NFL when he bought it. I mean, this guy was a late 30s tech billionaire, way too much success, way too soon, right place, right time. They were the second most valuable franchise behind, of course, the Dallas Cowboys in 1999 when Mr. Snyder bought this team for $800 million. Since then, their record, Pickles, is 149 and 293 losses. They have had 9 coaches since 1999, every other year practically. And you compare it to a team like Pittsburgh, they've had 3 since 1969. And prior to that, the 11 years are from 81 to 92. Prior to him taking over, Joe Gibbs had coached that team to 3 Super Bowls. In a short period of time, 11 years, they were the, again, second most valuable. Now they haven't lost that much value. They're down to 5th in the NFL. I was surprised that he hasn't run this organization more than it could be run. They're down to 5th. So this could be huge news. Not just the allegations with the mistreatment of the cheerleaders. You got to look at the bad free agents. The Albert Haynesworth, Pickles. Remember that signing? All that guaranteed money, putting him in a system that did not fit him. He wanted to play 4-3. They put him in the 3-4. Again, 9 coaches. 9 coaches since he's been there. That's every other year, if you want to do the math. Every other year, he's got a different coach there, different systems there, always trying to get the headline there on the trying to get the headline in March in free agency, kind of like the Jets a little bit, kind of like at times Dallas, Jerry Jones. Now Steven will pull him in, and the drafting of Dwayne Haskins was there was a thought there was a thought which later we found out was fact, that when they took Dwayne Haskins, the main reason was he went to school with Daniel Snyder's son in high school. I mean, if you're starting to do stuff like that rather than what's best for the team, you're a train wreck. You're an accident waiting to happen. That's probably why you went through 9 coaches in 20 years. 9 coaches. Think about all those contracts this guy's. I mean, more money than sense, like my dad will say. So speaking of Dwayne Haskins, as I said, and just a few others, that Haskins' toxicology came out. You know, it's a tragic thing, and I do not want to downplay this. You know, I know the guy's got a family. He's a very young man, but you have to talk about stuff like this to try to prevent things from happening again. Okay. The toxicology comes out. He had a blood alcohol level 3 times, not 1, not 2, 3 times. This is from I think this came from either Miami Herald, but I got it off the New York Post. He had drank heavily the night before that. He got into a fight. He was with a woman that wasn't his wife. They got into a fight. He also tested positive. Remember, he took the run on the highway 3 times the legal limit. And he tested positive for ketamine and nortacamine. These are drugs that can be used for either recreational or medically. These are pills, my understanding is, to aesthetics is what they're called. Something you would take to numb you to get some type of surgery, from my understanding. 3 times over the legal limit, and he had the so. This is something good to, and then Jason Whitlock says, bar fight, woman in his car out of gas, and parents refused to attend Pittsburgh memorial service. Nothing to see here. Very racist of Adam Schefter to mention he struggled in the NFL. He endangered himself and others. That's what Jason Whitlock said about it. Now, you have to talk about the good and the bad here. This can be a PSA for the NFL to say, listen, you guys, you're going to have a lot of money coming in here. And this is something to do with these kids with the NIL too. It kind of all ties together. You're going to have access to a lot of money. You want that high. You want that bigger high. I'm just now watching Wolf of Wall Street. I've got it recorded. I haven't seen him, but I know it's been out since 2013. The guy was totally degenerate, totally over. He had too much money, too young, 20s, making hundreds of thousands a year in the millions, and not knowing the dangers of that kind of totally degenerate lifestyle and uncontrollable. So this should be awareness case. I'm sure the guy was a good guy. He probably just, a lot of money coming in and just wanting to go wild and crazy. But this was not just a guy who ran out of gas like the media makes it out to be. And thank you, Pickles. Put it over there. More money than sense is what Pickles says. And let me put your comment on there. A Special K. Yeah. So you're taking all those over-the-counter aesthetics, and then you're doing the 3 times over here. That's why he was walking in traffic, folks. So we have to raise awareness on this. We take people talk about shootings and all that stuff. Just don't raise awareness on certain issues that fit your bias. You want to raise awareness on everything. That the NFL should not poo-poo this. We've had a lot of incidents in the NFL. We had a player, 2 players had vehicular homicide accidents. We've had 3, one here in Henry Ruggs. We had an accident there with alcohol related. Leonard Little, the accident where someone was killed and he had a DUI there. Former University of Tennessee player, former New England Patriot wide receiver Dante Stallworth. You remember that incident, Pickles, where he was in Miami and he ran over a man, lost his license there. I think he got suspended. But it's just, you have to raise awareness on the type of money and the training. I know they have training for finances and stuff, but this is something the NFL should not shy away from. Shows like mine, it's with all due respect to the family, to say something about it and pass this information down to the younger folks. Listen, you can use an Uber. Don't be afraid to say you're overindulging and go get, hey, I think I may be overdoing this thing. I may need some help. Okay. But again, this was something that the media kind of poo-poos it, and they don't bring panels on and talk about it. Just like they didn't bring panels on and talk about the China NBA thing, even though ESPN, to their credit, did report that. Yeah, Pickle says half of Wall Street is not functioning without cocaine. Yeah. Really good movie there. Only about halfway through it. True story, supposedly, told by the guy that the story was about. And that guy was way out of control, overindulgent. Some stuff I wouldn't talk about on here, but pretty crazy there, Pickles. DiCaprio did a really good job in that movie. Another good performance by DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street. And on top of that, going back to Daniel Snyder, they got $100 million for approximately 200 acres of land in Woodbridge, Virginia. Another guy with more money than sense. So raise awareness to alcohol indulgence, drug indulgence, and the temptations of big money. And let's see if we can, if this is true, vote out Daniel Snyder and get a good owner for the Washington Commanders football team. Because I tell you, they got a really good fan base, Pickles, up there. Really good fan base up in Washington. Speaking of the NFL, don't want to let this slide through. We've had 2 hard knocks, Pickles. 2. There's going to be a August 9th. You have Detroit, a traditional hard knocks team that's not done well last year. They're on the rebuild up. I do like what they did in the draft. And I'll tell you this, even though he had 3 losses and 1 tie, Dan Campbell does seem like a rah-rah guy. They played hard every week. Let's see if that does that wear off and they become garbage. The over and under for them, I think, is 6.5. Yeah. 6.5 there for Detroit. Now, mind you, they have, Jonah Hill, Pickles. Going back to Wolf of Wall Street, Jonah Hill plays, he was funny in that movie. And he does the accent really good. So Detroit, they're playing in August. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Jared Goff. Remember, they got Penei Sewell. Let me check on this. Check out this roster. Don't know how many games they're going to win, but they signed DJ Shark, former Jacksonville Jaguar. They drafted, remember, Jameson Williams there. Hutchinson, they took him with the number 2 overall pick. They had the 10th pick and got Jameson Williams there. Amon St. Brown, the guy that had a great player, 4th round pick. Remember, he had a great rookie year, 900-something yards there. And then you've got DeAndre Swift, probably their best player on offense as of right now, TJ Hawkinson. So they can hit you from 40 ways from Sunday offensively if he continues to open that offense up and let it breathe a little bit. A lot of players out there. I would not be real conservative with running the football. I would definitely add in some more passing plays. Again, if they hit their over and under, they double their win percentage. I think that would be considered a successful season if you're 3, 1 tie, and 3-13? Because remember, we've got 17 games this year. So if they can go 7-11 with this team or better, I think that is a success. And then the other team, this is the mid-season, Pickles. The mid-season Hard Knocks will be, and this was announced yesterday, that will be the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the question is, can Kyla Murray stay healthy the whole season? The last 2 seasons, he has not. Actually, excuse me, every season he's been there. You say, well, Robert, he played 16. Now, I watched these games closely. We know he missed games last year, obviously. They started off 7-0 and finished 11-7. I mean, it just fell off totally there towards the end. But I'll say this. The talents there, they finished 4-7, lost, got destroyed there by the Rams. But last year, it was a good Hard Knocks. It was a Hard Knocks about the Colts, the midseason one, Pickles. It was in November. You saw the ups and downs. The real big high was that big, what was it, a Saturday night game? I think so. It was a Saturday night game against New England. Beat that Patriot team that had been really hot at home. Wentz didn't lose it, but you could see the meltdown of Wentz in that last regular season game for Indianapolis. And we saw the behind-the-scenes thing against Jacksonville that put teams like Pittsburgh in the playoffs. Remember, the Colts were in the driver's seat to get that last playoff. That freaked out Jim Irsay, and you can see the transition in that Hard Knocks. And it wasn't too much farther after that. They went on and traded Carson Wentz again, traded 2 years in a row. We'll see how he plays out with Washington. But you get to see that from the inside going into the Hard Knocks regular season. Now, HBO did a really good job pinpointing a team in a similar situation with this Arizona team. I think this Arizona team will probably be just like the other Arizona teams, Pickles, with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury coached. Now, mind you, DeAndre Hopkins, he's suspended for the first 6 games. Their best receiver paid a fortune, by the way, Pickles. A fortune, $27, $29 million, something like that. Some crazy quarterback money they're playing this wide receiver. It's like 32, by the way. He's getting towards the back end of his career. And are we going to see them start off 5-1, 6-1, maybe another 7-0? Really hard to do that 2 years in a row. But start off like that, and then you're going to see in November, that's when Hard Knocks comes about. They come on in November, and then they'll work their way down throughout the season towards the end of the season. They come in just about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and then they go all the way to the end of the season. Are we going to see Kyler Murray fall off and get injured again? Are we going to see hints of Cliff Kingsbury, who just signed an extension, by the way? Of course, they signed that general manager to an extension. Now, mind you, in college and pro, these crazy owners will fire you after extending you 1 year later. I've seen it done. It's happened with college in Tennessee. 1 year, Urban Meyer's fired at Jacksonville. Could they fire Cliff Kingsbury? Yes, I think so. I think that this offense might not be suitable for Kyler Murray. Long-term wise, I think he runs too much into I think they're too scared of his height. That's what I think. I think he can play in the shotgun. You know, he didn't get any balls knocked down, or very little, at the line of scrimmage. That was a big fear coming into the league. But then you got really tall quarterbacks to get balls knocked down at the line of scrimmage. Now, I don't know his trajectory, really good footwork, kind of got that escapability, except he's a little bit more athletic than a Drew Brees, who's a little bit taller than Murray. But he throws a really good deep ball. If it's me, I'm going more under center, because you don't want to run Murray that much. I think they should roll him out more, do some more stuff at the line of scrimmage. The problem with keeping him in the shotgun too long is you're not getting your running back any momentum. Your running back is going from a complete stop to taking the ball from you off of a read option and giving that defense time to get momentum towards you. And a lot of times it works, particularly early in the season, it'll work. But if you've got that running back who's got some momentum, like a Kansas City coach team, those jet sweeps, those little crossers, this are all behind the line of scrimmage that Andy Reid was set up with former Tyreek Hill. Now, I'm sure Mecole Hardman will be that type of play. That's something that they should do to try to keep Kyler from taking too many hits. You know, they got the speed at wide receiver, running back. I think they're going to be fine as far as the offense is considered. As far as the points of production, it's just keeping Kyler healthy throughout the season has been the thing that is going to be the problem. And if he gets hurt again, extension or not. Now, mind you, I do think they'll probably try to extend Kyler Murray. By the way, he did not show up to the OTAs, Pickles. He's not showed up to these OTAs. He's going to blow this off. I think he's going to be a holdout. I think. We'll find out. Now, if he's a holdout and he comes in late, they sign him late, he gets hurt, you're going to watch Arizona crumble there on Hard Knocks. It's a good watch. They should have done it a long time ago, kind of like All or Nothing, which is actually better It was the Amazon series. Now, they didn't do an NFL team. They did a soccer team last year. But they've done teams like the Eagles. They've done the Panthers. It's an Amazon series called All In. And they will take you through the end of the following season, the previous season. They go through the draft. Then they go through the regular season. Really good to add some music. Digital, I mean, just much better, actually. Much, much better. The problem is you don't see it week to week in real time like you would here. Like you'll see, and I had them all recorded because I would watch the game on Sunday. And then I look forward to seeing the Hard Knocks on the following Thursday. Or the following week. I can't remember. I think it would be the following Sunday. You would watch the week before. It would be the week prior, kind of like your paycheck, the work you do this week, you get paid next week for. But I always look forward to it because remember last year, another big moment they went up to Buffalo. They went to Buffalo and beat the crap out of them. 4 or 5 touchdowns, Jonathan Taylor, with the Colts. But then we saw the collapse there against the Jacksonville Jaguars where they stopped the run and Wentz couldn't do that. So, could we see that? Well, the Rams are going to be better. The Rams are going to be good. I don't know about better, but they're going to be the Rams, the favorites. And San Francisco's still going to be good. We don't know. There was some news about Jimmy Garoppolo, speaking of that same division, that Kyle Shanahan says he still expects him to be traded. Maybe he goes to Carolina. So, a lot of stuff is going to happen over the summer. Again, I do like those Hard Knocks matchups there. I'm into that. So I do think that something's probably going to happen with Baker Mayfield this summer coming up because we got Memorial Day coming up. So we got to talk about summer storylines. Baker Mayfield possibly getting traded. But I'll say this. If they don't trade Mayfield, Roger Goodell, by the way, said today that Deshaun Watson, which I'm about to watch when I get off here, Pickles, Real Sports, HBO with Deshaun Watson on the women making allegations. They're going to do some interviews with them. There's going to be Real Sports is going to cover that. Roger Goodell says we're almost close to the end of the investigation. There's speculation that he could get suspended. My guess is 6 to 8 games. I think it's crap, but hey, if that's the way they do things, more power to them being the NFL. So my thing is, if you really can't trade Baker Mayfield, he just needs to, stop pouting, take your lip, stuck it in, putting your lip out like a baby, go in there, kick butt in camp, try to go, say if he gets 6 games, if you go 4-2, even 3-3, then you got a guy like Watson come back afterwards with that defense. By the way, just re-signed Jadeveon Clowney, okay? You still got a really good defense, good offensive line, good receiver. Mari Cooper there, receiving core. Nick Chubb, really good running game. Good tight end still. Not receiving core that you've had before in the past, but you've got one solid number one. I do like Cooper, Peoples-Jones, like that setup there. Turned out to be a really good pick, 5th-round trade there for Cleveland. Now, they did lose Landry, who went to New Orleans, but they still got a way above average wide receiving core up in Cleveland. So that's going to be a good storyline. But, yeah, if I'm Mayfield, I just go play, he's going to be better than Jacoby Brissett. Brissett is not that good. Pickle says Arizona needs a top flight backup. Pickle says Arizona should sign Baker as a backup. I don't see why they wouldn't. Both of that would be a good storyline too, because both players played under Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. Both number 1 picks. Baker got I don't know if Kyla got the Heisman or not, but I know Baker did. I think both of them got the Heisman too. Both got the number 1 pick. I know that. Well, they both got the number 1 pick. That would be an interesting storyline. So those are two quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I'll say this. Let me go back to Garoppolo for a second. People talk a big game. I'll say this. If Trey Lance is not quite there, I don't know if I'd trade Garoppolo this year. They're still in that window. If they don't trade Garoppolo, they'll still have 2 years of Trey Lance on a really, really good team-friendly rookie quarterback contract. The Garoppolo's number is pretty cheap. It's less than 25. I know that. But Trey Lance's number is going to be year 3, year 4. They could still have that Super Bowl run there, and they can add other free agents. So, Aaron Rodgers was 3 years on the bench. Some players you do. I don't think it has to be really bad with Trey Lance for them to do that. Maybe Deebo Samuel sits out this year. I don't know. That could hurt him too. He's another guy that could get traded. Or maybe they just stop using him as a running back and just put him as a wide receiver. So those are some summertime storylines, folks, that I'm looking into and thinking about. Kudos to Justin Thomas, came back there, won at the end. I will say this. I was talking about the PGA. He was down 7 shots behind the leader, this Will Zalatoris, in the playoff there. That's a great comeback. Now, people talk about Tiger Woods. Yeah, I put $5 on him. He was plus 7,000 pickles. He shot 69 on Friday. He was terrible Thursday, and he was limping around on Saturday and ended up dropping out of the tournament. But I'll say this. He was one of the only few that I could find that's ever won at Tulsa, the PGA. That was back in 2007. I'm a little torn with Tiger. I do think that he should play more of the smaller tournaments to get himself geared up. Jason Whitlock said he's too much into the majors and he's too rusty. And other people say, well, he's too banged up to barely play the majors. Probably shouldn't do that. I think he needs to find a happy medium. I wouldn't embarrass myself. I think it looks like he's trying to get his game back. He's going to have to alternate his game a little bit because of this injury and because of his age. But it's not out of the question he could still come back and possibly win a tournament. He's got the determination to do so. Yeah. And, yeah, he would rather die than quit. I wish I would. I was watching this Will Smith thing today. He did an interview with David Letterman. This was before the slap incident. And I can tell he's a guy, even after all he's accomplished, made it at a very young age, teenager, was a rapper, Fresh Prince, got parlayed Fresh Prince, the TV show, into movies, blockbuster movies, 2-time Academy Award. And the guy still wants to stay busy and challenge himself. So I'm okay with people never really retiring and challenging themselves. He says, I've got enough material things. I want to need something more fulfilling than that. But he just don't want to rest on his laurels. That's why I think people like him, even Nick Saban, as mad as he gets, they don't like to just stay not busy. They have to challenge their mind. If Nick went into TV, going back to Nick Saban, I think that he may go into TV after this year, win a national championship, but he'll have to have something else to keep him busy during the year, advisory board, something of that nature. He's one of those people. And like Tiger, they don't like to just sit around. They're very antsy, jumpy. I'm a jumpy person. I get it. Even though I work long day to day, I'm getting a little too much working here lately, but people like to stay busy post retirement, especially people that love what they do. They want to stay with it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I don't think that Brady doing the TV, speaking of Nick Saban, which Some say he would command over $20 million a year, being the greatest college coach of all time, like a Brady. Those guys, they'll do that, but they want more. They want more. So have a good night, everybody. If you like the show, share the show. I'll be back on around 9 p.m. Central Time next Tuesday. Otherwise, here on Sports Scope.